everybody, the time is 7:21 p.m. and it is February 20th. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes Weather. Hopefully everyone is doing well today, and I will say the weather's going to definitely take a turn over the next couple of days. As I stated previously in my previous video, an ice storm is on the way for southern Michigan and a snowstorm for areas farther north. It looks like it's going to be a pretty rough one as well, so make sure you're subscribed, staying updated. There's going to be more info coming out on this probably tomorrow, and I'll probably post another video update for it as well, so stay tuned for that. But it's going to be an abrupt change in weather. We had some pretty warm weather today across much of the area, but I think it's going to be cooler tomorrow, and then freezing rain is going to be coming in Wednesday with a sudden warm-up to melt things off on Thursday. So we're going to take a look at that with this particular video. Let's get right into it because there's a lot of ground to cover with this particular storm setup. So let's pull this up real quick if it'll load up. There we go. All right, so I want to first go to the Weather Prediction Center's website, and you can just have a look at the sheer scope of this event and the impacts they could have for parts of the Great Lakes region. You can see that this area indicating heavy snow possible, and look how broad of a scope the heavy snow is going to have across much of the continental United States, all the way as far back as Utah, and then going up into parts of northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. Minnesota is definitely going to see some very heavy impacts from this event. It's going to be very impactful for that area, Minnesota. I'm going to see a lot of snow there, but I do think a lot of the dangerous activity also is going to be focused around this area where you have this ice storm. So the freezing rain potential is very high, and then you can also see that there's an excessive rainfall potential across some spots with flash flooding on top of the freezing rain that's already falling. With that, along with that, I think due to the heavy rain, that will allow for some runoff rain to possibly melt some of the ice, which makes me wonder how much of an impact the cold temperatures at the surface really will have. It really depends on how heavy the rain falls, how much more ice that we see, but I do think there's still going to be a lot of ice from this, anywhere from northern Indiana, northern Ohio, northward. You're going to get some ice. I think the focus of the ice is going to be some places around Ann Arbor, Kalamazoo, up towards Lansing, Grand Rapids. You're going to have a really good chance of seeing more ice. Maybe even, according to the National Weather Service, some places are saying you could have up to a half an inch of ice in some spots, which is very significant, going to cause a lot of impacts, power outages, things you don't really want to mess around with. You don't want to be out on the roads for this type of activity that's going to be moving through, so it's definitely something you're going to want to watch. But this is what is on the table. Big winter storm, very broad in scope. You have thunderstorms farther south along with this as well. You can really see it's just a large low pressure system that is kind of allowing this, and really also one of the big influencing factors of this is that there's a very warm air mass to the south, which is giving a record heat wave across portions of the south as well. And then you also have very cold temperatures on the backside, and that's allowing just a bunch of moisture to just get fueled up into this storm and just dump a lot of moisture across this area. And with that sudden change to cold temperatures, it's going to really change things across much of the Great Lakes region as well. So here is the probability of snow potential, and I do think the snow potential is going to be relatively high across parts of Michigan and northern Michigan. Wouldn't be surprised to see 6 to 10 inches of snow in particular across some of those areas. It is going to be a decent amount of snow. Really the focus of heavier snow will be this area right here, Grand Rapids. If I back it up a little bit to show you where those snow impacts will be, it will show a little bit more of a different story of 6 to 10 inches of snow across parts of areas north of Lansing, north of Grand Rapids. This area could see quite a bit of snow spanning up into parts of northern Lower Peninsula as well, where you have Boyne City, Boyne Falls, Petoskey, Traverse City. Those areas will see quite a bit of snow, but I really think the focus of the more intense winter activity will be in this area here. So definitely the accumulating snow is something you want to watch out for with this. If you live north of Lansing, north of Detroit, those areas will likely see mainly snow, and sleet will also be contributing to that as well. Heavy wet snow and sleet with that. Now this is the probability of freezing rain accumulating greater than a quarter inch across the area, and you can see the chance for that is actually relatively low, 30 to 40% chance anywhere between Kalamazoo and Ann Arbor. This is likely going to be the focus point of the ice accumulation, and if we zoom in a little bit, you can get a better idea of where that could span. You also include Portage, Battle Creek, Union City. I do think portions of Leonidas also, just northeast of Mendon. Sherwood, Homer also is included in that. And you go into Jackson, Hillsdale. Those areas are going to see probably the most ice with this, according to what the current models are showing, and it's getting relatively consistent now, so we can get a really good idea of how exactly things are going to go down. But the focus point of the ice is really going to be this area in dark green and blue that you see here. Now, probability for greater than 1/10 of an inch is much higher, so you can see that there is a 60 to 70% chance of greater than 1/10 of an inch of ice, kind of in that same general area. And places that will likely see 1/10 of an inch of ice or more get all the way down to Sturgis, Three Rivers, Bronson, Coldwater, also Hudson, areas such as those, and then areas to the north, including Lansing, south of Grand Rapids. Those regions could see greater than or equal to 1/10 of an inch of ice in that area. Greater than 1/2 an inch is very low, but it is there, a 1 to 5% chance in those areas I just mentioned once again, from Kalamazoo, spanning down towards Leonidas, down towards Hillsdale. But I do think the rain will be falling at such a rapid rate that it really won't reach that much. But I do think there's going to be a lot of ice accumulation on trees and power lines, because you're going to have that cool air underneath it that's going to enable the rain on those different areas to freeze, and that will cause a lot of weight on the trees. Probably some branches, some trees will fall down if the ice gets that heavy, and then also very dangerous roads, power outages, very probable if the ice does get up towards 1/2 inch, which the chance of that is low on the lower end, but it still could occur. So let's go a little bit forward. Let's take a look at some of the models now. First of all, that winter storm watch is in effect for parts of central Michigan. Then you have a winter weather advisory. This winter weather advisory up here is actually more for an event that's occurring right now with a clipper system that's heading through the area. The winter storm watches and warnings that you see are in current setup for that winter storm event that's going to be moving through Wednesday into Thursday, where it's definitely going to have some pretty significant impacts out here, hence the winter storm warning early. Winter storm watch is just issued this afternoon for the regions you see in blue right here. So now let's get a look at the models, what the models are saying about this event. Let's go back to the beginning. At the present time, there's that Alberta clipper that's going across parts of the Upper Peninsula right now, bringing that winter weather advisory. Going to move through, move out of the area, and then you see this deepening low over Colorado. Now, this is the one that's going to bring the intense weather activity to the Great Lakes region. You go a little bit forward, and you can see that there is kind of a gradient that sets up. Now, the placement of this warm front, again, still is essential for an understanding as to where the freezing rain will line up. There's still a lot of variables at play, and it's going to be really hard to predict exactly where the heaviest freezing rain will occur. We have a pretty good idea, but there's still going to be some variabilities as we get closer to the event. So moving forward, you can see freezing rain and sleet focus up between Grand Rapids and then northern Indiana. You do see that freezing rain potential that sets up there and still settles over it throughout Wednesday afternoon. Going to see some pretty heavy impacts during that time frame. As it moves out of the area, you do notice though that it tends to lighten up a little bit. This is actually a bit concerning that it's lightening up as we get into Thursday morning, because you do still see some shades of pink here and there showing that freezing rain. That means that there could still be some freezing drizzle falling behind this heavy band of rain. That freezing drizzle could still accumulate on power lines, on trees, and with the slower rate that it's falling, I wouldn't be surprised to see some very slick spots on the roads. So that's definitely something we want to watch for as this continues. And then you still see that large band of snow associated with a secondary low pressure system on the backside going up into the parts of the Upper Peninsula at that current moment. What I'm expecting is that by Thursday, there is that warm air mass is going to filter into the area, probably bring some temperatures that could reach close to 50 degrees, quickly melt things off during the day on Thursday. Thursday morning commute's still going to be heavily impacted, but I do think it'll start to melt off Thursday afternoon. The damage will be done by then, and then the snow will stay relatively farther off to the north. Upper Peninsula, you're going to see quite a bit of snow. And then also parts of northern Michigan, northern lower peninsula, we'll see a decent amount of snow from this as well. So that is how things currently stand with the GFS model. Again, there's still some model variabilities with this particular setup, but we're going to compare it to the Euro model, and we're going to get more of a regional view of this event. We do have the information pulled up here, and it does show that a little bit more of a northward mode for the freezing rain in the Euro model, but it still does show that general area that could see good freezing rain potential. If I get a sounding, I'm kind of in one of the focus areas of freezing rain. You do see temperatures at the surface are at about 30 degrees, and then much, much warmer as you get up above 1 kilometer in the atmosphere, quite a bit warmer. And I wouldn't be surprised to see those rain droplets fall into this colder air, and then that super cooled air, those super cooled rain droplets will fall and freeze at the surface. So that'll be a quick shift, and you can still see that it kind of relatively stays similar, the region of freezing rain, over parts of southern Michigan. Freezing rain does lift off farther north of Grand Rapids, though, as you can tell. And then as that low moves off, one model is projecting that the warmer air will make it into parts of Michigan. The rain will kind of stop, and the snow will stay on the northern side of it. But there is going to be that potential for maybe some light freezing drizzle on the back side of it as well. So there is still some things to watch with this system. It is going to ice over pretty good for this event on Thursday. Definitely going to be something you want to be careful and pay close attention to as it begins Wednesday at about, I'd say, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. 2 p.m., 3 p.m. is when the freezing rain will start to occur, cause a lot of icy impacts, and then you also have the snow that's going to be in the central part of Michigan as well. So that's moving off to the northeast by 7 a.m. This is kind of how the picture, this is how it looks according to the weather models. Still some light freezing drizzle and some drizzle in the area. So still might be messy out there. And then lake effect snow appears possible on the backside on Friday with those cooler temperatures that will be in the 20s with this event. Let's take a look at the temperatures connected to this event real quick. You can see that by the time we get into Wednesday afternoon, when that begins to move in, you do see, look down here, you have temperatures in the 60s, mid-60s in fact, in southern Illinois in some spots. And then you have temperatures at or below freezing across portions of lower Michigan there. And then you have temperatures close to the teens across parts of the Upper Peninsula. You can see there's a big temperature difference there. So as we go into Thursday, you can see it does seem to warm up a little bit by 1 p.m. Wednesday. It gets into the 30s. Then the night begins to fall. We go back down to freezing temperatures. You really have that really close setup for that freezing rain. And then look at the temperatures even at 7 p.m. across parts of southern Ohio, southern Indiana. You guys are going to be pretty warm. So you're going to have temperatures in close to 70 degrees. You're going to really have a chance to enjoy some nice warm temperatures. I will say, though, there is going to be some thunderstorms connected to that. Not sure if they will be severe, probably not severe for that area. But really, you do have quite a temperature gradient, a tight temperature gradient between these two competing air masses right here. Kind of a decent setup for a lot of rainfall. And then also you can see by Thursday at about 11 a.m. you have the temperatures starting to rise across parts of southwest Michigan, and it will get in close to 60 degrees possibly across parts of that area by Thursday afternoon. So a quick warm up, quickly things will melt off, and then look at the temperatures going into Kentucky. You get close to 80 degrees, and then 70s in Ohio, 70s in Indiana. Very warm weather. Surprising temperature gradient between this cooler air mass to the north and this warmer mass to the south. And that change in air masses, most often seen during spring, is what causes a volatile weather pattern such as the one that we're going to be seeing here. Here's the projected ice accumulation totals according to what the models might be saying, and a lot of them do put out some pretty impressive models. GFS has already been on the higher end throughout this entire time period. It's gone all the way up to even close to an inch of ice. I don't think that's going to happen. NAM is actually putting it on a more northward trek. I don't think that's going to be one that we want to stick with. NAM is definitely playing it a lot farther north. Blend of models has a good assessment. You have about 1/10 of an inch of ice going close to a 1/4 inch of ice across portions of southern Michigan. You have a 1/4 inch of ice near and west of Detroit, east of Ann Arbor, east of Jackson. Those areas are going to see quite a bit of that icing potential. And then RDPS also plays it a bit off to the north as well. But I do think the blend of models, GFS and the Euro, seem to have a pretty good assessment as to how this whole thing's going to unfold. I do think the main focus of ice is going to be this area here that I'm kind of dragging out with my pointer right here. Let's take a look at the snowfall totals for those of you that are farther north, there is going to be a very tight gradient between the snowfall totals. You do notice that it quickly changes from 0 inches to lots of snow due to that change in temperature that will be occurring as you travel to the north. But it really shows that snowfall accumulation potential much farther off to the north with this event. Blend of models, again, showing a much lower amount of snowfall accumulation. But the projection does show that there could be a focus point of a lot of heavier snow. 6 to 10 inches of snow. I don't think it's going to be anything too excessive. So that's what this event is currently monitoring. So if there's just something to be aware of as this event is ongoing, and some snowfall. The snowfall will continue through that area from Wednesday into Thursday. So focus of this event is the ice. I will actually probably be out in around Kalamazoo County as this ice event is ongoing, and get some ice, or just track the ice as it continues to accumulate across parking lots, across bridges, overpasses. Bridges and overpasses will be hazardous. Power lines will likely fall down, and some tree branches will probably get snapped a little bit from this heavy weight. So definitely want to be prepared for this. Wednesday night into Thursday is when this event is occurring. So make sure to stay updated. Find a way to get weather information. You can subscribe here. You can go to other resources. And also make sure to take the necessary precautions to prepare for this storm. Still some variables at play, but it does look like we're getting a better idea of how things are going to unfold. So stay tuned for later updates. Probably tomorrow I'll give another update, but we'll continue to keep you updated, and stay safe, and I will see you all later.